Welcome to the podcast. My guest today is Gwyn Ashton.
Fabulous. Thanks for having me on, mate.
No worries. Tell us a little bit about Gwyn. What was the thing that got you started playing music in the first place?
Well, my brother had a guitar. I was 8 years old and my parents went away to New Zealand for a holiday and he had this guitar sitting on a stand in his living room, and I'd never really seen one before, except maybe on television, but I didn't really pay much attention to that. And I really wanted to play it, and it took me 4 years, 12 years old, to get one myself, but he wouldn't let me touch it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you were sitting there looking at it going, don't touch?
Yeah, but for 4 years it was in my head that that's what I wanted.
Oh, okay.
I had to have one.
So 12?
12 years old, yep.
So how did you come by a guitar at 12?
Mum went down a local second-hand shop in Wyalla in South Australia, and there was this $10 heap of junk, real hard to play, but it was the best guitar in the world for me, 12-year-old me, in a steelwork city.
Did you hear your brother playing guitar?
Yeah, a little bit. He's not really a player. I knew at 8 years old that I had to have one of those things. Now I've got 100 of those things.
Did you get lessons, or is it something that you picked up of your own playing?
No, I had a book by a guy called Happy Traum, the Children's Guitar Guide.
Okay.
And in fact, I got in touch with him on Facebook a couple of years back, and I said, thank you so much for helping me get into this thing.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and he was really happy to hear from me. I said, I got this in 1972, and I studied that book, G, C, D7, blah, blah, blah. And that was kind of my education. Then a few people along the way have said, blah, 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 play like this or do this. I go, oh, yeah, that's cool. So I go home, and I'd get up in the morning before I go to school, play for an hour, go to school, come home, play for an hour, have dinner, play for an hour, go to bed. And that was my existence for like 3 years, just working it out.
Okay.
Just on my own.
What were your favourite musicians back then? What were your favourite artists?
Well, back in those days, mainstream radio was pretty cool. And so I'd be listening to the top 40 AM radio. I'd hear Arlo Guthrie, I'd hear Black Feather, a lot of Australian artists. Country radio, Gypsy Queen, I thought that was a great song. Then there was Mark Bolan, T-Rex, Elton John. And then I got into the Beatles quite late. As far as Beatlemania goes, I was an outcast because this was like, they'd split up 2 years beforehand, and like, what are you listening to that old stuff for? And I loved it, I still do. So George Harrison I saw standing there, the guitar solo. Mm-hmm. I was about 15 years old, and I thought, I want an electric guitar. And then I had a little 2-track tape recorder, reel to reel. And because we couldn't afford electric guitars and amplifiers and stuff, Back in those days, you didn't have a lot of money.
How did you come by the reel-to-reel?
My dad was an audio engineer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
okay.
he gave it to me. And I discovered by putting the microphone in the sound hole of my nylon string $10 heap of junk and pressing record and pause, I had an electric guitar. And it was, I know every interview you see with people, that's what they did, but I didn't see any interviews like that at 15. And I thought I'd invented this, I went running into the kitchen. I said, Mum, I don't need an electric guitar, listen to this. And I went, it sounded bloody horrible. But it was electric.
Yeah.
And she was excited, and she was always very encouraging, I've got to say.
That makes a massive difference too, I think.
Yeah.
When did you discover other musicians? Were you playing with other kids at school, or was that later on after school?
Not at all. I barely socialised at school. I was pretty quiet. So fast forward a little bit, I just got my driver's license. I was 16, and I got an electric guitar by then. This Japanese tempo copy of a Les Paul.
I had a tempo copy of a Telecaster.
Oh, really?
In high school, yeah.
I wish I still had it because they're cool now. They're rubbish, but they're cool. Anyway, I answered an ad in a paper. I just got my driver's license, and I could use my mum's car. She had a 1964 EH Holden.
Wow.
There I was, tootling off. I answered an ad in the paper. A guitar player wanted, and I thought, I'll go for that. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to go for it. I didn't have an amplifier. I just had the electric guitar, and I got the gig. And it was a guy, Neil Edgley, and he lives in Sydney, in Wollongong. He's still playing. He gave me my first crack at playing. And then we were rehearsing, and we used to rent amplifiers from Musical High Service in Adelaide, quite a popular place. For instance, they had the Sound City amplifiers from England.
Oh.
And Ian Moss went in one day, this was like early 70s or mid-70s, and the building, the door was on the corner, like you had the two corners, two walls and the door, and it was looking out sort of across, was on the corner of two roads, and he put two speaker boxes and cranked it in the middle of the day and just woke up the neighbourhood. So I remember that a long time ago. Anyway, I met these people that didn't go to bed at 9 o'clock, and they liked being up late listening to rock and roll music, and introduced me to Buddy Holly. And that was my first introduction to the Stratocaster, which I love.
Yep.
I actually own Mick Jurd's 1961 Strat that he played with Fraternity with Bon Scott.
Wow.
And I bought that in 79 in Adelaide again. So they were great days back in the 70s because the radio was good then, mainstream radio. I mean, we got great public radio now, community radio, that really helps. Yeah, they help me. You know, I've charted on the Australian Roots and Blues charts a few times, which is kind of nice. But mainstream radio back then played really good stuff. So I'd go to sleep with a little earphone in my transistor radio, and I had to stuff it under the pillow because Mum was going, you know, she'd come in and go, turn that thing off, you know, you got to go to sleep. And I was just a musaholic, guitaraholic, whatever you want to call it.
Were you a fan around that time of the whole countdown thing?
I was before that.
Okay.
Between 72, 73. So Countdown was a bit later. I played on Countdown with Swanee.
Oh, wow.
In 85.
Yeah.
I moved to Sydney.
We're in the 70s still.
Yep.
And you're in Adelaide.
Yep.
What happens from there, and what happened to transpire for you to eventually move out of Adelaide?
I had a few bands around Adelaide. We played around the place, did a few shows, you know, did a bunch of shows, which was a lot of fun. Various lineups, lots of different drummers and bass players, and you know, people coming and going or whatever. And then 1983, I answered another ad in a local paper that a Sydney band wanted a guitar player to go to Sydney, so I applied for that gig and I got that as well. So a month later, drive the old Holden station wagon that I had at that stage. I got my own car and lobbed up in Sydney with just a couple of guitars and an old Marshall amplifier and a Dream, you know.
Yep.
And I wanted to sort of go for it. And then I eventually joined Swanee's band and then Stevie Wright's band. And then I had a lot of different rhythm sections in Sydney. I lived in King's Cross, so I used to hang out at all the great late night spots, the Mansell Room, the Cardoma Cafe. A lot of Sydney people will know those places back in the 80s.
Yeah, I visited a few of those places in the late 80s.
Yeah. Well, this is like 83 to 89 while I lived there. I actually had the rhythm section from the Divinals that had never played together before.
Oh, wow.
So Tim Milliken on bass, who was a later addition to the band, and Richard Harvey on drums, who was the original guy. But they'd never been in the band at the same time together. So I had those two
because I got a mate
together.
who lives up here, JJ, who played drums for the Divinals.
Oh, okay.
Toured America with them and everything. So
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were great. And so I had lots of different sort of musicians like that. I had John Layla and Laurie Marlowe from a band called Heaven, the sort of heavy rock band. Went to America and did a lot of good stuff.
were you playing covers or playing original material?
Bit of both.
Okay.
I was writing, but I didn't really see. I was pretty young, so I worked it all out myself. You know, nobody sat me down until later and said, "You got to write songs." You know, so I was just surviving basically. You know, the dole and do some gear. I just want to get out and play, so it didn't really matter. And I think in your younger years, if you're a musician, you just want to get out and play, and you want to emulate your heroes a little bit.
Yeah.
I wish I'd started writing a little bit earlier than that. I had, but I just wasn't putting a lot of emphasis on it. And it was really difficult in those days because not like now you've got technology. I make records.
Back then, it was a very expensive exercise to
Two-inch
record.
tape and big studios and pay out
I guess
money.
the biggest, I remember one of the biggest things that happened was the whole concept of the Tascam Porter Studio with a four-track
I had
cassette.
one. Yeah, I had a 244.
Yeah.
A little 4-track cassette.
Playing with Swanee, was that just playing live? Did you ever get to record?
No. We flew down, did Countdown, and then I wasn't in the band suddenly a couple of weeks later. Whatever. Anyway, it was a great experience, and we're friends now.
Yeah.
We've done a recording together 10 years ago in Adelaide, and I'm just mixing it now, which takes me a while to do things sometimes.
So what were the 80s? So the 80s for you was a Sydney-based thing for them predominantly?
Yep. And then I went back to Adelaide for a year in 1990 to 91, and I got the support gig with Rory Gallagher, one of my heroes. I've been listening to him for a long time. In the garage, I remember, going back to the late 70s, the police used to come around all the time and say, "Hey, boys, a bit loud, do you do any ZZ Top? Oh, can you play us one, but can you turn it down a bit so the neighbours aren't, And when I say neighbours, I'm talking across the paddock.
Yeah.
It was like a couple of acres and then there's another row.
But that was pretty cool. The police were fairly...
Oh, yeah, they were pretty cool.
They were pretty cool.
Then one day this guy walked down the driveway and he said, "I heard you guys from my house over the paddock." And I went, "Oh, sorry, we'll turn it down." He said, No. He said, "Have you heard of Rory Gallagher?" And I said, "No." And he said, and he had some records under his arm, and he said, "I think you're going to enjoy these."
Oh, wow.
And we finished the rehearsal. I went inside. I had a gramophone. It wasn't even a record player. Put it on, and
for those people, hang on, just for those people who may not understand, when you say gramophone, can you describe what you mean by a gramophone?
Well, it was a record player in a box with a speaker in it.
Yeah, it's a fully self-contained record player with speaker all mounted
All in
one unit.
Yeah, and I wasn't a very good stylist or anything. It was just a thing to listen to records on. And Rory, he changed my life that night. This was like 79 or something, 78 maybe, 79, around that time anyway. And I put on Irish Tour 74, which is the album. If you're going to get into Rory, that's the album you get. First song was Cradle Rock, and the guitar at the beginning of that. And I went, "What is that?" And it took me 3 months to sort of... we didn't really practice much in that time because I was too busy realising how much I didn't know. And I thought, I got to get better. So it changed my life. And there was calling card and whatnot. And then I had no idea that, like, 11 years later, I'd be playing with him at a show in Adelaide. And then a few years later than that, I'm playing in his band because he's died and I've gone to England and and I'm playing in Rory Gallagher's band of friends. And we did that for 5 years, and all the people off those records that I listened to. And it's just like, that's fantastic.
Yeah, that would have been a great experience.
Yeah, but that was a few years later.
So, obviously, at that stage, you've taken a trip overseas.
Oh, well, before that, I went to Melbourne then.
Ah.
And then I got to play with Jim Keys, Masters Apprentices. And I ended up playing on 2 of his solo albums. And then one night, I was playing at Joey's nightclub in South Yarra. And we had a Thursday night residency. And he said, I want you to play every Thursday night. Yeah, put the band in, blah, blah, blah. So I put a really good little band together. And after 2 weeks, we were doing Cream and Hendrix and a couple of my songs, something like that. And he goes, get out here on the balcony. So I went out. He said, what the are you doing? What are you playing? And I said, well, songs. And he said, I want you to play original music. I don't want you to play any of this cover stuff. He said, you've got 2 weeks to get a set together or I'm going to fire you, or you're going to have to get another job. And I went, oh, okay. That really kicked me up the butt. And so we did. And a few months later, I'm recording my first album. And I thought, why didn't I do this years ago? Why didn't somebody kick me up the butt years ago?
Were audiences very receptive to the original material?
Yeah, it was great. And I got to deal with Shock Records in Melbourne. Mm-hmm. And they had The Offspring. That was the big band they were pushing at that time. Mm-hmm. The great distribution company. And the guys were fantastic, really nice people. And they hauled me in. And they said, what are you doing in Australia? I said, why? And he said, well, you're selling more albums in Germany and the Netherlands. I said, get over to Europe. You don't need this. You're busting your guts all around Australia and you're selling more stuff over there. You've never been? I said, no. I said, well, you've got to go. So I was friends with Peter Wells, Rose Tattoo guitarist. And I had lunch with him and he said, yeah, you got to go, man, just go. And then a week later, we were doing our residency at Young and Jackson, Chloe's Bar in Swanston Street. And our harmonica player, he said, oh, my sister's coming tonight. She's from England. And I said, oh, great. So she came and she said, look, if you ever want anywhere to stay in England, come over and you can stay there for free for a while. So I did. I thought record company, Pete Wells.
All of the stars had aligned.
Yeah, they aligned. And then I got a song called One Way Ticket to the Blues on my 2-Man Blues Army album, which is another thing later on. That was about putting all my stuff on a container, sending it to England. Took 3 months to get there. One-way ticket.
Wow.
And then I decided to go to America on the way through because waiting for the gear.
Yep.
You know, and I landed in Los Angeles, stayed with a friend that I'd lined up. Went to a few jam nights and it was just like everybody loved what I was playing and I thought, oh, this is great. Beforehand, when I was in Adelaide in 91, Billy Thorpe came to the gig and he brought Mick Fleetwood.
Oh, wow.
And he said to me, oh, can Mick get up and play with you? And I went, yeah, hold me back. So that went down really well. We played till 5 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, wow.
At the Century Hotel. And I had Mick Fleetwood Mac's drummer. What a guy.
So what was that like at the time for you?
It was amazing.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Becca Bramlett got up and sang with us, Bonnie and Delaney's daughter. She had a great voice. They were saying, have you got your passport? You know, we might have a gig for you. Los Angeles, blah, blah, blah. And I'll go, yeah. Come to the gig tomorrow night. So I went to Colonnades Tavern in Adelaide and I went up to the people on the door, you know, guest list. I said, oh, because I was still young, you know. Excuse me, my name's on the guest list. Oh, you're the guy that Mick was talking about all the way here. Oh, wow, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, and I missed out on it by that much.
Oh.
But Thorpe gave me some great advice. He said, go to Austin, Texas. And I said, oh, I've always wanted to play there. And he said, no, don't play. Go and watch. It's Guitar Town.
Oh, yeah.
So
So many of my favourite players come from that place.
absolutely.
Eric Johnson and...
They're guns. He's a friend of mine too. And so when I was in America, I got to get to Los Angeles. And I've got 5 weeks to get my way to New York and fly to London. So I'm just going to jam nights everywhere. I was in LA for a week and that was really cool. Then I went to San Francisco, very tired, flipped a coin. Heads, I go back to sleep. And tails, I go to this jam night down the road in Berkeley. Mm-hmm. Tails it is, okay, I'll go. It's, you know, the energy, the universe telling me where to go. So I went down there and it was just a jam night. It was a Monday night. And this guy came up to me at the end of the night and said, I really like your guitar playing. And I said, oh, thank you. And he said, I'm Bobby Murray. I play guitar with Etta James. I think my record label might like you. They're in New York. Here's their card. Give them a call. So I went, oh, thank you. And so I called them up in New York. They said, yeah, man, what do you do? And I said, oh, blah, 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 you know, just travelling through, going to England. And send me your CD. So I took, in those days, you can't take your CDs packaged. So I'd take a roll of CDs, a spindle of CDs, had the covers printed in an envelope, and I'd buy jewel boxes at Tower Records in LA and spend an evening assembling CDs to sell, because you can't get done for tax there if they're not a finished product. So I sent them off a couple. Well, we've got a gig for you in New York. And I went, oh, great. Opening for Bill Perry, Manny's Car Wash. He was a great New York guitar player, Blue Sky. And so I go to Austin from San Francisco, get in the car, looking for a hotel room, find a guitar shop, and it's a custom shop. And this is how I met a lot of the guys from Texas, from Austin. This guy just suddenly became my friend. Have you heard of Storyville? I said, no, they're playing tonight. Do you want to go? And I went, yeah. And it was Stevie Ray Vaughan's band.
Oh, wow.
Double Trouble, with David Grissom on guitar and David Holt and Malford Milligan as a singer. And I went to that and it was just like, wow, these guys are great. They put me on to Ian Moore and all these other guys from Austin. I had a great week in Austin. And I've been back there quite a few times since then, and there are many more stories about that, but probably too long for this program. So then I went to Boston and caught a Greyhound bus down to New York to do that gig, have a meeting with the record company. They said, where are you going? I said, London. They said, why? You should be in Seattle or LA or New York. And I went, well, my stuff's on a boat, you know. Can't hijack the boat in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean or whatever it was. So they said, okay, well, you're going to need some contacts when you go to England. So they gave me Pete Brown's phone number, who wrote White Room and Sunshine of Your Love with Jack Bruce, and Jerry McAvoy, who was Rory Gallagher's bass player. And they'd just recorded and released an album dedicated to Peter Green, and Rory was on it and all these other people. And so I rang them up when I got to London, one of the first things I did. And Pete said, yeah, come round the house. So I was sitting in his basement and he was playing congas. This is a guy who wrote In a White Room, you know, and I'm thinking,
playing congas.
This is insane, you know. And there was a 412 old Marshall cabinet in the corner of the room. I looked at the back of it, had cream stenciled on the back. It's one of the original ones that Jack had. And suddenly this mad guy comes running through, older fella, and Pete introduced me to Dick Hextall Smith, who was a sax player, played on John Mayall's Blues Breakers out the Beano album.
Wow.
The jazz guy from London. And then I was just suddenly in this environment of my heroes, you know. I got the records at home. What's going on?
Yeah.
Pinch, you know. And then put a band together there and made a record with the Rory Gallagher band, with it, minus Rory, Jerry and Brendan O'Neill, called Fang It. And that came out. A couple of French guys came to a gig I was doing in North London, created a record company because they liked what I was doing, and so went to Midem in France and sold me to Virgin, and we got distribution and marketing through Virgin Records. So I was in all the Fnac and Tower record stores and Virgin and Mega stores and whatnot, signing stuff. And I had my first gig there was with Buddy Guy.
Wow.
At a festival, playing with Robin Ford, co-headlining festivals with Robin in Marseille, and just general, that sort of stuff. Flying to Paris for a day to do magazine interviews, guitar magazine interviews, and it's been a good life.
Yeah. So when you were doing all of that, how was that being managed? Did you actually have a manager per se, or was that something that...
It was a record label in London, the French guys. They were lining it all up. They got me to tour with Status Quo. And the last gig was at Wembley. And Francis Rossi said, do you write all those songs? And I, yeah. And said, here's my number. We're losing our songwriter, Bob, somebody, I can't remember his name. I was never a huge Quo fan, but I admired them because they play 12-bar rock and roll, and I love that. And he said, do you fancy, coming around and maybe doing some writing or whatever? And Rick would like some slide guitar pointers. And but don't tell anybody. So I've kept it quiet for years. I shouldn't be telling you this, should I? And the first thing, because Francis is a bit of a jokester, and but he loves his music, and he said, do you know Kevin Borich in Australia? And I said, yeah, he's a friend of mine. He said, tell him I said hello. Oh, great, okay. It was backstage at Wembley,
Are those recordings that you did back then, are they available?
Yeah, I've got them at my gigs on tour here in Australia right now.
We were speaking we were speaking on the phone, and you're saying you're living in Prague.
Yeah, I'm based over there. It's a very central network because it's right bang in the middle of Prague and in the middle of Europe. So you can get to Germany, Austria.
It's a great place as a launching pad to go to other places.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful city too.
Oh, it's fantastic, and I'm playing all over Europe.
I do remember I visited Prague a few years ago, and it's one of the things I can remember. We're on a boat going down and on the riverbank.
Yep.
Every 100 metres, there was like a full band playing, and you go a bit further down, there's another band playing.
It's a little bit different now. The emphasis that they've taken away a lot of the street performers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my first gig in Czech Republic was with B.B. King.
Wow.
At Golan Blues Festival. This was like 25 years ago. I've been going back there and backwards and forwards from England and touring, mainly touring Germany. I had a lot of work through Germany with the Yardbirds and the Trogs and the Sweet, Slade, Peter Green, Mick Taylor, and a lot of people. I can't remember everybody. It's in my bio.
So when you were recording back then, were you obviously going to a traditional larger studio to record?
Yeah. Yep.
And how have things changed from the way you do things now? Obviously, you were talking about before you're carrying a MacBook
I go
laptop around with you. And you're recording, and basically you have an interface and you're recording with that.
The next album, and I was in a real writer. So getting back to the Quo thing, I had a real writer's block at that stage, and I wasn't really. I was in a very non-creative period of my life. A little bit of hoo-ha with a record label. Things weren't going exactly how I envisioned they would go. So that kind of affected me mentally, like I can't create with all this pressure going on. So through the Rory Gallagher band, I went to a party and met Ted McKenna, who was a drummer with Rory. He was a wonderful drummer. He's passed away now too. And he gave me his phone number and I said, do you fancy doing some recording? I had some songs by that stage. He said, yeah. I'm up in Scotland, in Glasgow. And I went, okay, not a problem. So I rang him up and he said, let's do it with my bass player, Chris Glenn. And they played with the sensational Alex Harvey band and with Alcatraz, Michael Schenker group, and all that. And I didn't really know about Alex Harvey at that stage. And so I went up and stayed with Chris, the bass player, crazy Scotsman. Fantastic guys, great band. And we just sort of hung out and I showed him some songs and he played me some videos of Alex Harvey on the old grey whistle test and whatnot. And I thought, wow, what? I missed out on all of that.
Yeah.
And they were a huge influence on all the Australian rock singers like Bon Scott or Angry.
Okay.
Barnsey. Alex Harvey was the guy, you know. And so we did some gigs together, just some pubs, just to break it in a bit. And then we went to a studio this was a transition studio between what I do now and the full-on studio. Mm-hmm. So they had a guy there that was a dance music producer. So it was just a little room. And here I am with all my amps and guitars and stuff. And he went, oh, good grief, I thought we were going to DI everything. I said, no, I've got microphones. So I had to go out and buy microphones because he didn't have enough, which I put to good use later. We recorded an album called Prohibition, and Don Airey played on that as well.
Don Airey from Deep Purple.
Deep Purple, yeah. He plays some piano and organ on a couple of songs. And I kind of put it out myself through a company called Dixie Frog in France. Now, you got to understand that at this stage, the music industry took a big dump, right? And this was the early 2000s, and Virgin dumped all their smaller artists like me. They kept Johnny Winter, Albert Collins, but they dropped everybody else. And the MP3s were just coming in and downloading illegal downloads and all this sort of stuff. And so we lost the distribution. The label that I was with got me with another label, which was sort of more of a classical music distributor. So it still got in the shops, but it didn't do nearly as well as it could have done. I still went to Paris and did some interviews and whatever. Was
stuff being pressed purely on CD at that particular point?
Yeah.
No vinyl?
No, I haven't done vinyl yet.
Oh, wow.
No, I can't afford it really. Plus it weighs a lot. And, you know, vinyl's still digitally recorded. Yeah. They just whack it on vinyl.
Well, not all. Yeah,
most
not
of
all.
it.
Most of it probably would be, yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a guy that I've known for quite a few years now, a guy called Jeff Wright. He's got a studio in Byron, and his big sales pitch about his studio is purely all fully analogue.
Well, that's great. You can still get great sounds out of digital. So.
Oh, absolutely.
So I'm not as anal about that as I used to be. I've got an 8-track Tascam. You know, we're talking about the Porter studio. I got the 8-track with a reel-to-reel, quarter-inch tape. Yep. A 388. Weighs 90 pounds. Haven't used it yet. I bought it 25 years ago. It sounded better than my laptop at the time, but now I can get pretty close to it.
Digital has come a long way.
Yeah.
It really has.
Yeah, it has.
Like you were saying, now you're using an SSL 2-channel interface.
Well, that's one of them that I use.
And with a Mac laptop?
Well, the next album I recorded was in Kidderminster in England, home of British rock music. I mean, you got guys from Zeppelin, Sabbath, Judas Priest, Stanwood, Chicken Shack, Christine McVie, Christine Perfect. They're all from around there, and Robert Plant lives down there, and all these people. So I'm suddenly in this area, and I'm doing some gigs, and Planty comes out, and I've got his band on a tour. Brought his bass player over to Australia about 20 years ago. And so suddenly I'm sort of hobnobbing with these guys, and I'm thinking, I want to record an album, but then I'd gone down to a two-piece band.
So it's you and...
A drummer.
Okay.
Yeah. And I thought, I want to give this a go, because the White Stripes have been around, the Black Keys. I went to see Tony Joe White. I did some gigs with him, and T-Model Ford from... he was from Mississippi, Delta guy. And all these two-piece bands were springing up. I thought, I'll give that a go. And I bought some recording stuff. And the drummer, Dave Small, was a singer in a band with Robert Plant's son, who was drumming. So before we made the record, we were just sort of getting it together. I had some songs, and we sounded really gnarly, you know, quite different to those other bands, because it had more of the rock thing in there as well from the Australian days, you know.
Yep.
You can't take that out of you once you've done it. And I just remember one night Robert brought his son out to see us play the Maverick in Stourbridge. And there were like 6 people in the room. It was a last-minute gig, and it was my drummer's parents, a couple of fellas sitting over in the corner over there, you know, and the Maverick, it was only the size of this room, you know, and Robert and his son. And he said he loved the duo, and gave us a lot of great compliments. I won't say exactly what, but it's because it sounded like I got my head up my butt. But it paid a lot of compliments, and really encouraged me to keep doing that thing. So I made a couple of records like that as a two-piece, and then did another two-piece album in Adelaide a few years later.
What stylistically would you describe that music as?
Oh, it's a bit swampy, but it's got rock in it, and some country and blues, and just guitar music, really. Sort of just lots of grooves. And I was talking to Tony Joe White's drummer one night, and I played with them. I said, because I was trying to, you want to get ideas off people as a creator.
Yep.
You know, okay, how can I make this work better? And he said, Tony just wants me to rock. That's all he said. No fills, just wants me to
play
rock.
the groove.
Just groove. And Tony tuned down to D.
Okay.
You know, whole tone down. I do that now.
So I suppose from in a
fatter guitar sound.
Yeah, I was going to say it gives you more of that lower register, so you don't miss the bass so much.
Yeah, and Tony, you know, he wrote Poke Salad Annie for Elvis. He wrote Steamy Windows for Tina Turner. The guy's been around. He influenced Creedence Clearwater Revival's entire career.
Wow.
Yeah. If you listen to Tony, you go, sounds like Creedence. No, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
No, he was a great guy. Liked to drink, but yeah, I did 3 shows with him. Played in Sweden with him. It was fantastic. So after the Two Man Blues Army album, which was recorded in Dave's parents' workshop, the drummer's parents' workshop, and they were all friends with Robert, and he came around one day and said, oh, this is like a room that Jimmy and I recorded, and we nailed some carpet up on that wall. And so while his parents weren't looking, took the carpet off the wall. That was a bit naughty. And it's the first album that I actually recorded myself.
Okay.
And I had to teach myself. I was hang on, YouTube. How do you
So you're
do
the
this?
engineer and the producer?
Yeah. And we set up this little control room thing. There were a couple of rooms in this workshop, and I said, oh, look, let's get all this stuff off the desk. We'll put the laptop there and all the bits and pieces, and had some microphones, and stuck my amplifier under a desk so it wouldn't bleed too much into the drum microphones. I had like 2 microphones on the drums. You know, it was raw as as you can get. Got some amazing reviews.
Wow.
I released it. I formed my own record label and got a distributor in London, Cadiz Music, and started compiling a database of media and radio and magazines, newspapers.
From the market,
podcasts.
so you could do
You're on the hit list now.
Oh, yeah.
You'll be getting all my emails. Just for releases, you know, try and get reviews, blah, blah, blah. Just teaching myself how to write, record, release.
Well, it's that thing about making people aware that you've actually put a product out there in the world, because if people don't know about it, they're not going to.
I had no idea what I was doing. And I didn't want to mix it because I know I could track it, and I know through the old early tape recorder days, just treat it like a tape recorder. Get clean sounds down, don't push the channel up too high, you know, don't make it distort. Just
especially if it's digital.
Yeah, absolutely. So, because there is no signal to noise ratio that you've got to avoid. Like on tape, it hisses and whatever. You got to really hit that
well,
tape.
in tape, you can afford to hit the tape pretty hard.
Yeah, and it sounds
very
better.
forgiving.
Yeah, exactly. But you can't do that with digital.
No.
And I'd try and get it mixed in a couple of places, and I paid to get it mixed. And I'd get my laptop back home and listen to it that night and go, no, I don't like this. So it took me 6 months. I mixed the whole album myself, and instead of using compressors, I was getting into the wave track and just pulling a few things down here and there.
So you were maintaining the dynamics, but adjusting levels.
Yeah. I'm an idiot. I shouldn't have done that. I should have just whacked it with an 1176 and be done with it.
Well, that's the traditional way of doing things.
Yeah. So I did that, and I released it, and it did pretty well. Then the next album was called Radiogram, and I recorded it on a friend's farm in Oxford. And it was going to be another two-piece album. So I thought, how can I be more raw than two mics on the drums? One mic on the drums. So I put the drums in the corner of the room, and there's another fella, Kev, who played on this album, Kev Hickman, in England. And I put the drums in the corner facing the wall, because the drums sounded bigger.
Okay, so
right?
You're getting the reflection.
I said, just play, and he was hitting everything, and I was going, that's where it sounds good, that's where the mic goes.
So what sort of microphone did you use?
This was a Shure 55 Elvis mic.
Oh, wow.
That's all it was.
Wow.
And so I put it on there.
And you were shifting, obviously, like you're saying, you were shifting the mic around to work out where the best spot for it was.
Yeah. But using my ear, not monitoring, because I couldn't hear anything in the monitors because he was
so
playing.
loud.
I just thought, I'll give that a go. So we recorded it, and then I thought, I'm going to put some bass on it. And then when I put the bass on, I thought, well, maybe we should put some keyboards on it. So I got in touch with a friend of mine, Mark Stanway, who's he played keys with Robert Plant's band, Honey Drippers, and his wife, Mo Birch. She was a singer. She sang with Go West and Culture Club and Paul Rogers and Planty as well. So there were these people involved. I played bass on it. Then Don Airy sent another couple of tracks over. And suddenly I had this album. It was missing some harmonica. So I went to Los Angeles to go to a NAMM show, which is a big trade show every January.
They've just had it?
Yeah. I really wanted to go this year, but I didn't. And I went to a gig, caught up with Kim Wilson, Fabulous Thunderbirds harmonica player, ended up going to his house with my laptop, and I got him to play on a song. I was like, this is great. And where I was staying, I needed harmonica on another song. So a fellow by the name of Johnny Mastro, he's a fantastic harmonica player too, from a band called Mama's Boys in LA.
Yep.
Blues band. And so he waked some harp down as well. And I thought, that's sounding really good now. Then I got hold of Robbie Blunt, who is a guitar player from Robert's band. Mm-hmm. In fact, I think he put me on to Mark Stanway because they played together. He lived around the corner, and Robbie wrote Big Log for Planty, and he was on Pictures of 11 and all that stuff. You know, I go around his house and all these platinum records on the wall. You know.
Yep.
So he said, "Yeah, I'll play on it." So we sat around the kitchen table.
Yep.
with two little direct box amplifier simulators made by Award Session in England that the guy had given me, the London Guitar Show. And I played the lap steel on it, and Robbie played my old 63 Strat we were talking about earlier.
Yep.
And sounded great. And so I said to Robbie, where could we mix this? And he said, well, Rockfield Studios, where we do all our stuff, and in Wales, in Monmouth. And Rockfield has a big Neve desk, and it's like everybody recorded there back in the 70s. So Bohemian Rhapsody, Rockpile, Budgie, any classic British 70s rock albums recorded at Rockfield, and great. So I went over there, and I rang him up. Yeah, come on in, blah, blah, blah. So I took all the tracks in, and the engineer mixed it. 2 days, £700 later, it was like $1,400. I come out, and I took it to Robbie, and he said, it doesn't sound very good. And I said, nah. I rang them up. They said, that's all we could do with your tracks, That's the best we could do. And I went, and I was really bummed out.
Yeah.
So I was in Los Angeles, and Kev and I, the drummer, we had a gig booked at some place on Fairfax in West Hollywood, Molly Malone's or somewhere like that. Anyway, there were a whole bunch of bands on. We were the first one. We played to nobody.
Oh, wow.
Right? We packed up. All these people came in to watch these two Japanese girls do something. And I'm going, you've got to be joking. So I had all these flyers printed up advertising the Two Man Blues Army album. And I was just giving them out to people. I thought, what have I got to lose? I was saying, you just missed us play, but you can check it out on this.
Yeah.
And one guy, he said, what do you do? And I said, well, this. And he said, where are you from? England. He said, I'm a producer. He said, have you got anything I can listen to? And I said, yeah, I've just been down the studio in Long Beach, and I had a song remixed there. A friend of mine, Marc Ford, used to play with Black Crows. We had a little acoustic duo together we played. We did 3 or 4 gigs. And he said, come down to the studio. So I went down to the studio and we mixed it there. And so, but I wasn't totally happy with it there. He said, have you got a stereo in the car? And I said, yeah, because I had a rental car.
Yep.
He said, let's go out now and have a listen to it. I went, yeah, sure. So he put it on. He said, man, I can do much better than this. He said, come around the house tomorrow and I'll mix it for free. Oh. And if you don't like it, don't worry about it. And he said, if you do like it, we'll make a record. We'll mix the whole thing.
Oh, wow.
And so I said, okay. So I went round there, and he's a producer for a band called the Lost Prophets, a Welsh band. Mm-hmm. And the studio, no kidding, it's the size of a coffin. It's like nothing. No desk, all in the box.
Oh, wow.
A bit of foam glued to the wall for a microphone dispersion thing.
Yeah.
Not even... No. And he made it sound incredible. And I went, how did you do that? He said, I know what I'm doing. I said, Rockfield couldn't do that. And they said, I know what I'm doing. I said, I don't know. So we mixed the album. And I'd even bought an old EP3 Echoplex tape echo machine from 1976 or something.
Wow.
I said, can we patch this in for the vocal? And he said, yeah. And the thing spat tape out everywhere. And so that didn't work. We got a bit of it down. And so he mixed the album, and I took it back to Robbie Blunt in England, who just he'd given up. He said, you're never going to salvage this thing. And I played it for him, and he said, that's amazing. He said, who's going to master it? And I said, I've got to get somebody good. He said, okay, well, you're on the right way. I feel so sorry for, recommending you. It's going to cost me a lot of money in the other joint.
Yeah.
And so I contacted Don Bartley at Benchmark Mastering in Sydney. he mastered my first album.
He's got a great reputation too.
Yeah, it was at 301.
Yeah.
And I sent him the tracks, and he said, "Okay, I'm going to dump this on 2-inch tape, and then I'll master it from that." And he did. And I took, again, back to Robbie's house, put it on his stereo, and he went, "I can't believe it, sounds so good." And I went, "Okay, let's put it out." So I did.
Yep.
And that got a lot of good press as well.
From start to finish, how long would that have taken you?
Oh, about a year.
Okay, so it was quite a journey.
It was, because there were so many hiccups along the way, and then I gave up for a month or two and just thought, no, I've got to do it. And I was touring, Czech or Norway or Sweden or Germany or whatever, in between as well, Finland. The next album, do you want to go on with this?
Sure.
Okay.
Why not?
So after Radiogram, what's my next album after Radiogram? I think it was Sonic Blues Preachers.
So around what time frame are we talking now?
That was 2012. I don't think I did anything for another 5 years. Just doing live gigs.
So you're touring around playing live gigs, and you're playing like all over the world.
Yeah.
Who tees up these gigs for you now?
Well, I had a few agents, but a lot of venues are closed down now, and a lot of agents have gone out of business. They've got old and they're retired, and so it's a bit of a struggle at the moment. I got a couple of guys over there. I had one guy in Germany that was putting me on the road with like the Animals, Yardbirds, blah blah blah, all these great classic rock bands. But he was dealing mainly in nostalgia kind of acts.
Yep. And
that's great. But it was still an older audience, which I'm trying to get to a younger audience because I'm so young myself, Okay, so Solo Electro, I recorded. It's like a psychedelic one-man band, sort of a bit 60s, a bit grungy.
Because when you're touring around now,
garage,
you're doing it's like a one-man band show.
Yeah, it's a different one-man band show.
Because I was going to say, back then, was it the one-man band, or you were touring with other musos?
I'd gone down to the solo thing, and then I decided to get more work, I should make an album. Because I wasn't just a guy with the acoustic guitar. I had the bass drum and the loud amps and the bass amplifier, and I was,
Yeah. So what? I guess the question would be, what was the thing that made you decide to go out and do it on your own solo, as opposed to having other musos go with you?
I was doing a lot of solo gigs anyway,
Okay.
just with a stomp box and a couple of guitars. It was a steel guitar like this one. No, what happened? My drummer let me down one night. This is exactly what... I was in Swindon at a gig, and the guy specifically booked the duo. He didn't want me solo because he'd seen me with a stomp box.
Yep.
And he'd seen the duo, was smashing it.
And he wanted the duo.
He wanted the duo.
Yep.
I thought, the drummer just pulled out to do a bloody wedding gig or something stupid. So he couldn't do it. And I thought, I'll bring the bass drum in instead of the stomp box. And I was so nervous, so apprehensive. It was really like, oh dear, what am I going to do? He's going to hate me. But I wasn't going to cancel the gig. I needed that money. So brought it in, I thought, I'm just going to go for it. And I never kicked a bass drum before.
Okay.
And I put the pedal on, and I ended up with Bill Ward's drum kit from the first Black Sabbath album through some guys I knew in the area, where I was living. And this guy actually plays mandolin and guitar with Robert Plant now.
Wow. In
Saving Grace, Matt Worley. And I've actually offered it. I've said, hey, Matt,
Do you want to buy that kit back?
No, because Sabbath are doing their Back to the Beginning tour. Oh. Their gig in Birmingham. I said, Bill might want to use that kit, So he said he's going to ask him. And somebody said, I spoke to Tony the other day, I'll ask him as well. So I'm really hoping, a free ticket. I'd love to go to that.
Yeah.
I love Sabbath. Anyway, so I had the bass drum in the van because my drummer would be using it, but as I said, he couldn't do it because of some stupid gig he had. So I thought, I'll bring that in. And I got a pedal because I got it off Marketplace for 30 quid or something, and I'll just have a pedal, why not? And so I put it on, and I went, and I kicked it, and I went, that's easier than a stomp box. I'll stand up and play.
Oh.
So I did, and I had my amps, and I use an octave pedal to make it sound like a bass guitar.
Yep.
So I thumb pick,
Yep.
and the bass lines come out of the amp, and the guitar comes out of that, and I've got all my delays and fuzz pedals, and I thought I'm just gonna slam it tonight, and so I did. First time I ever tried, and so the guy comes up to me at the end of the night to pay me, and he said, "How long have you been doing this?" And I said, "Oh, a while."
Lie.
And he said, "Look, you're booked in here, blah, blah, blah. Can you do this instead of the duo?" He said, "I like it better."
Oh.
And I went, "Yeah, why not?" And so that kind of...
So it became a thing.
It became the thing. And I started doing it, and people go, "Oh, it's a bit loud." You know, I go, "Sex is wet, rock and roll's loud." That was kind of the attitude. So, that developed, and I thought, well, if I want to get some more gigs, I need to do a record to really push my new career as a one-man band sort of guy.
That makes sense.
And so I took all the stuff into a room in Moravia in the Czech Republic. And a friend of mine, he's got a studio and a big complex there, and he let me use the room out the back. It was carpeted, sounded really good. So, and I was working with songwriter in Melbourne, Gary Allen, and we were bouncing ideas off each other when it was the right time of day. I was emailing him songs, "Hey, write some lyrics to this," and blah, blah, blah. And so I got these really cool songs, and I recorded it. And then I got to nearly the end of it, and I had to go back to England. And then Matt, who's the guy I got the drum kit off, he said, "I got a room upstairs. Upstairs. You can finish it off there." And okay, so I dragged all the stuff up, all my recording gear, and bang, bang, bang. I took it to Mixmaster's studio in Adelaide to mix it.
Mick
Wordley. He's fantastic. He's got the great big SSL desk, and was it SSL? I think it is. Yeah, it's got the bus compressor. Yeah, and so did a little video there. Here's Mick Wordley.
It's got the. Is it in the mixing room or is it in the recording room? He's got the upside down boat.
Oh, I can't remember now. I was too busy looking at all.
He had some sort of or canoe or something rather. He was using as a sound diffuser or a sound.
Oh, maybe
in the ceiling.
Yeah, but he's great. So we mixed it there, and I released that on my label, and got all these killer reviews in this lifestyle magazine in Paris. I can't remember what they're called. All these great reviews, saying classic rock magazine. I got a track of the week, like number 3 or something. Beating all these bands that they were famous.
Yeah.
And here's little old me with a bass drum and not knowing what the hell he's doing with all this. Plug it in. Oh, why isn't that working? Google, YouTube. How do you blah blah blah? How do you punch in this? And it was pretty crazy. I'm a bit quicker with it now. And so I released that, and it got all these great reviews. And I thought, okay, went back with Gary in Melbourne, and we wrote a few more songs together. And I just seen. I was in London. I was hanging out with a fellow by the name of Paul Stacey. He's a great recording engineer. He played keyboards. He's a great guitar. He's a jazz guitar player, and he played keyboards with Oasis.
Oh wow!
And he produced their albums, and he works with Noel Gallagher at the High Flying Birds, and he was in the Black Crowes playing guitar, and keys playing with Oasis. And he's a really nice guy. He's a super nice guy, and. My friend came over from America, and he was Sammy, and I played it over there with him a bit, and he took me to David Crosby's house, and he was working with Cros and Stephen Stills and the Beach Boys and Jim Messina and all these other people. He's a guitar technician to the Stars.
Yep.
And he'd be fixing my guitars, and he'd come over to England and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, he rings me up and says, I'm working with George Benson. Do you want to come to the gig tomorrow night? Tell Stacey. And I went, yeah, okay. So I ring up Paul. Yeah, I'd love to go. So I took Paul out to the gig, and then he took me back to the studio in London that he had. A mess of wires and pedals all over the floor. I couldn't believe it. And, Noel Gallagher goes in there. He recorded half his album at Abbey Road and the second half in Paul's studio. So Paul said, did you see the video I did? He was really drunk at the time. He said, did you see the video I did with Tom Jones on the Letterman show? I said, no. And he said, he dialed it up, and it was just Tom Jones, Paul Stacey on guitar, and his twin brother, Jeremy Stacey, on drums, who plays with Noel, the High Flying Birds. And it was just like, guitar, drums, singer. I'll do that with Gary. So we did. And we wrote all these songs. And that one song called Burn in Hell, it's an old blues thing. Because Tom Jones' latest stuff's fantastic. It's all blues and gospel. And it's amazing. The last 4 albums. So we did that. And I recorded the album with Gary and John Freeman on drums, who played with Fraternity with Bon Scott back in 71. So then Gary's a teacher, couldn't get time off work. We needed to tour Europe. He couldn't come over. And I said, well, I can't release the album with your voice on it if I've got to sing it.
Yeah.
Because it just wouldn't be right, which is really sad because Gary's great. And so I re-recorded all the vocals on it and put it out as a duo instead of the trio. And I thought, okay, this just makes more sense. And there was one extra track that I recorded that it wasn't really Gary's thing, so I just left that aside. I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. It's a bit more rock. This is more funky, swamp blues, modern, kind of hip kind of stuff. This was old sort of 70s rock. But it was a song that I really wanted to do. So I'll come back to that later because that got a new life in another form. So we released Sonic Blues Preachers. Then I came out to Australia to tour that album. It was 2019 when it came out.
So who organises the tour in Australia?
Oh, I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just using the contacts that you'd made.
It's a nightmare. I'm on a 54-date tour now that I only started booking in November. Halfway, November 14, on my birthday.
Tonight you're down, staying Tweed because you're on your way down to Bellingen.
I was supposed to play tonight in Mullaney, and it was going to be an 8-hour drive to Bellingen tomorrow. And I'm kind of glad that I'm going to go halfway tonight and stay with some friends.
So we're on the way down to Bellingen, and then you come back and you go and do Agnes Waters Festival.
Agnes Waters, Blues and Rock Festival, and I'm really looking forward to that. That's the main gig of the tour. I had to set everything else up for that.
Yep.
So I've had 2 cancellations this week because the councils and whatever. Anyway, Sonic Blues Preachers comes out, great reviews. Really good, classic rock again, and all these metal magazines in Spain, and it's not a metal album by far. I got a girl to hide. So tough, so soft inside. Yeah. All right. She's what I like. She's what I like. She's what I like. So I thought, okay. Then I got this track. Well, after that had its course of, I needed another song. I might
So these are all, sorry to cut you off, but these are all on your own label?
Yeah, all of them.
Yeah.
So I had this other track, Lonely on the Run, left over, and I thought, I want to do something with that. And I tried. I'm not the best singer in the world. I got to really work hard on the vocal. I play guitar. I love singing, but I'm not,
So you think of yourself more as a guitar player than a singer?
I'm not Pavarotti,
Just to cut you off again. So you do the label. What about the publishing?
Or the publicity or publishing?
The publishing for the
I own all my songs.
Yep.
So I just administer that. I'm not very good at any of that stuff.
Because it's a lot of things. You're wearing a lot of hats.
Yeah.
You're doing your own marketing, promotion, record company. There's a lot
what's
of...
yours? Yeah, all of that. Yeah, I do a lot of graphic design as well, and photography.
Yeah.
It's a selfie on my new album, Mojo Soul. That was taken in Dimboola.
Oh, wow.
And I just had my guitar and I thought, oh, that looks interesting. No, that's a microphone. That's the camera.
We'll put all the links for that stuff down below so people can go and purchase a copy.
Yeah. We'll get to that later. So I had the song Lonely on the Run left over and I thought, what am I going to do with that? It doesn't sound like any of these other albums. So I took it back to England and got Mark Stanway to play organ on it again. He said, yeah, I'll do that. He said, we need a bass player. So he suggested Neil Murray, who used to play, he plays with Brian May. Mm-hmm. He was bass player with Whitesnake.
Okay.
Black Sabbath after Geezer Butler, Ozzy's band.
Wow.
Neil Murray's like one of the best rock bass players in the world. So Neil just sent me a couple of tracks over. He said, yeah, I'd love to, because Neil's a really nice guy. So then I had it mixed. It's going to go on another album. I put it out as a single. Mm-hmm. And my friend Brett in Adelaide did a video on my iPhone. And I sent it to Classic Rock, got number 3 track of the week again. And I beat Bruce Springsteen and what's that? He did a duet with John Mellencamp. Springsteen and Mellencamp. Oh. And I beat Ghost. And like they're one of the biggest bands in England. And Classic Rock said, how did you do that? And I said, I don't know. Just, you know. So it got there. So I put that out, and then I put another single out called Get Out of Town. Mm-hmm. And that started life. My friend Brett is a friend with Bon Scott's ex-wife. She'd given him a song of Bon's to put music to. He got involved with a record label. I was producing it. We set his room up as a studio during COVID. It was COVID by now, you know. Yeah. I got locked down after the tour in 2019 for 3 years. Yeah. I got stuck in Adelaide. You know, it was supposed to be a 3-month tour. But in that time, I put all these musicians together, recorded 110 new songs. Wow. So this is one of them. And I had Super Jesus rhythm section came in, Dave Blight with chisel on harmonica. I got Mark Gable and the Choir Boys. Yep. He did a vocal track. Richard Fortis, Guns N' Roses, sent over a guitar track, but they're in 2 different keys. I had to put it out 2 different singles of the same song. So I had to re-record all the guitars, and Fortis is playing on my version I sang, and I'm playing guitar on the version that Mark sang. And but I had to change the word. The record company spat the dummy at me. No, you can't write the music for that. Brett went out of the room to make me a cup of tea, and by the time he came back in, I'd written the entire song. I'd written the guitar riff and all the chords. He said, how'd you do that? I said, I don't know. I just read the words and
it came to you.
And it works so well. And I went, oh no, it's such a cool tune, and the chords are really good. The riff's real sort of cross between Fraternity and early AC/DC. So it was period correct, but they weren't having it. So I was lying on the beach, and Putin had just done his bombing mission, and I wrote the song Get Out of Town. And I wrote all the lyrics to it. I went up to my van and got the guitar out. It was a hot day too. And I thought, oh, that'll work. So I went and did a little demo of it and sent it off to these guys, and they all did their thing. Mm-hmm. And then Richard Fortis, he said, I've already done the guitar in that key. Mark wanted to sing it in a different key, and I said, yeah, no problem. I didn't have a problem with that, but by the time I got back to Richard, it's too late. He'd done his tracking for the guitars that week. So I said, okay, we can work this out. So I put it out with Mark Gable's vocal to start with, and sent it out to all these Ukraine embassies around the world, and they all sent me these really nice emails saying, congratulations for assembling such a wonderful bunch of Australian musicians to show solidarity with Ukraine. Oh, it blew me away. I used that on the press. Yeah. Sent it out to the radio. Yeah, it didn't do anything. Mainstream radio, you know. So then the last thing I recorded during the COVID lockdown was my latest album, which is a one-man band thing, and I thought I want to do more of a bluesy thing than solo electro. That was more loud, rock, in-your-face, psychedelic, blah, blah, blah. And a few gigs were reluctant to book me because it was a loud, aggressive, psychedelic guitar thing.
Oh, okay.
So I made this acoustic with lots of different grooves and feels. And by this time, instead of a bass drum, I had the kick, snare, hi-hats, and it got a bit funkier and swampier with it. And so I thought, yeah, that's a good follow-up album to break me into a...
And so the picture of the guitar is the guitar you've got sitting beside you?
That's that one, yeah. And I was driving across Victoria from SA, and I saw this bridge, and it had all this graffiti on it. I thought, that'd make a good picture. Yeah. So I went for a nap, actually, because I was really tired. And I got up. I saw it as I was coming in. I was going, oh, that was good. Get out of the back of the van. And I thought, I'll do a picture there. It was about to rain, right? And I had to clear all this swamp stuff out of the way, all these sticks and shit. And I put the guitar out there and it started to rain. I thought, I'll do one selfie. Timer, 3 seconds, bang, click, go. And I looked at it and I thought, that'll make a pretty good cover.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how that came about. But in that time, during the COVID, I got together with some more guys. Paul Wheeler from Icehouse.
Yep.
He was stuck in Adelaide. My bass player, Chris Lambden, who's a wonderful, wonderful bass player, and myself. We got together and recorded 40 songs.
Wow.
So something like that. And one album's...
So it was a very creative period for you.
It was. There are a lot of different things going on these records, though. I've got to divide them into 4 different...
different categories?
Genres.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bit of Tom Petty going on in there. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, some songwriter stuff. And there's another acoustic album as well, one with Chris Finnan. Anyway, the first night, we'd set up the studio in Brett's house that had the song. This was before we recorded the song. He said, you should hear my wife sing. And I went, oh, yeah, here we go. Heard this before. And she comes out with the guitar, sits at the kitchen table, a little bit reluctant, and she sang a song she'd written, and it just blew me away. And I thought, how many songs like that have you got? And she said, a voice just filled the entire room. I thought, we've got to do something with this. Yep. So she pulled out all these old songs that she had on CD. I went, no, because they had lots of reverb and very 80s, you know. She said, what? I said, let's rewrite all of them. I said, I've heard enough. Words are great. Melodies are great. Let's make them sound a little bit more current. So we spent 2 years.
Wow.
Or a year. Put a band together. Travis Strigani on drums. He was with Super Jesus at the time. Chris on bass again. Myself. I played all the guitars. I co-wrote all the songs. I wrote all the music to all the songs except the one that she played me that night, which was pretty well finished. And we got Dave Gleeson on a track, Matt Taylor, yep. Chris Finnan, Dave Blight, trying to think of all the people we had coming around just to...
It's a great wealth of talent.
Yeah, it's just this little community I was trying to put together in Adelaide. COVID time, we could get together groups of 7 people or something, or 6, 5, whatever it was. We didn't have any more than that there. Just in this little room, 3 mics on the drum kit, and create. And it was a terrible situation for the world, and I've got a lot of opinions about that. But it was a great situation for creativity because I could finish off some songs I've been writing on the road. I'd be driving through Germany.
I guess that thing too, because you had access to people because they couldn't go anywhere and do anything anyway. So they would have been incredibly happy to be being creative and actually being productive.
Exactly, and Paul's one of the best drummers in the world. Travis is fantastic too. So I've got an album waiting to come out now called Grease Bucket.
Grease Bucket.
It's coming soon.
All right.
Power Trio.
Play us a track?
Yeah, sure. I'll just move that back a bit. So I'll sit in the same spot so we don't move out of position, because that would be hell.
That's all right. If it goes out of focus, it does. It doesn't matter.
Okay. I've been debating what to do here, so I'll just turn this around a little bit. Probably don't want to hear everything, but this is a song I wrote at 5 a.m. Mm-hmm. And I mentioned I've been touring with a lot of people, and one of the guys I toured with a lot was Mick Taylor from the Stones.
Yep.
And we did a Guitar Heroes Festival in Germany, and I ran into him at a gig, and he said he was doing a Jack Bruce tribute concert in London, and I said, I'd like to go to that. Can you get me on the guest list? And he said, no, so it's like £300 a ticket, so $600 a ticket. He said, come along and be my guitar technician for the night and I'll get you in, we'll sneak you in. And I went, great, okay. So there were heaps of people. Terry Reid was there, he was singing. There were 60 musicians who played with Jack.
Wow.
Now Terry's very famous for not only being one of the best soul singers in England in the 60s, but the guy who knocked back Led Zeppelin. Jimmy Page, he was his first choice for a lead singer. He said, I've got a mate, Robert, who'll do it. He's got a good drummer. And I was hanging out with Lulu and Mick and Jeff Berlin, Mo Foster, great bass player, Corky Lang from Mountain on drums. It was just this like one night of insanity of great musicians, that I admired. So I got home at 5 a.m. and wrote this. It's on the new album, Mojo Soul, and I sent it to Gary in Melbourne.
Yep.
And he wrote the lyrics, and I was trying to get in the ballpark of Exile on Main Street, which is what Mick played on, and Ry Cooder played on that as well. And let me just wipe my hands, because nobody out there knows, but it's quite sticky here.
Yes, it's the middle of summer, and we're in a room with no air conditioning.
Or fans.
we had to turn the fans off.
For your benefit.
For the benefit of the sound.
Whoosh. Through the microphones we don't. So this one's called Yesterday's Me, Cool Water, and it's for Mick, yeah.
You've written the music for that, but you were saying the lyrics were written by
Gary Allen.
Okay.
in Melbourne.
Yep.
Great song. We co-wrote a couple of albums together. We still got a few songs that I've been recording lately.
Yeah.
So that's really good. And I've got so much more new music to come out. In Prague, I'm working with a violinist by the name of Jitka Vasadova, who's a fantastic bluegrass and country.
Oh wow!
Violinist. She's fantastic, and we're recording at the moment as well. We're gonna get something out. We've got a duo. We're playing around Europe, which is.
Once you finish Agnes Waters, what happens? Is it basically that's you done in Australia, or you got more gigs?
No. I've got 20 shows down in Victoria.
Oh, okay, cool.
Then,
So 'cause I was going to say, I think this podcast will probably come out after you've done Agnes Waters. But you'll still be gigging down in Victoria?
Yeah. I'm there from the. I've got so many shows. I'm doing Guyra, Dubbo, Newcastle, I know I get to Sydney by the 3rd of March, and the 4th I'm in Albury, the 5th I'm playing in Melbourne, and then from the 5th till the 23rd, I got more than 20
So you've got quite a busy schedule while you're
I've
here.
got about 27 shows left.
Wow.
And then the last week of March, I'm back in SA and do 1 in Adelaide and then 3 on the Eyre Peninsula.
Cool. So
I've got a lot of... That's hot work, playing guitar for a living.
how do you find doing that many gigs? How does that...
I love it.
But how does it wear on your health?
I'm a workaholic. Well...
Say for instance, you come down with you catch a virus and you've got a horrible cold and because that can affect your ability to actually sing.
I'll go and infect everybody I can. No.
No, is it one of those things though? I know some people who manage to be able to work and sing through a husky, sore voice.
Yeah.
And some people who can't.
I've done that, but I'm pretty healthy. I'm very health conscious, so I'm basically vegetarian. I eat a bit of fish and chicken.
Okay.
But I take a lot of vitamins. I look after myself a lot. And
so I guess it's the only way of being able to keep up the hectic schedule.
You got to eat healthy, kids. I'm getting old.
If you had to say there was one highlight of all the things you've done, because you've been so busy and you're in so many different places, what's one particular highlight where you go, I'm so thankful that happened?
Well, there's so many. I mean, touring with Johnny Winter.
Wow.
The show with B.B. King when he was really nice to me backstage. Wembley Arena was Status Quo. You know, I mean, that's a pretty big one.
Yeah, Wembley Arena, So tell us a little bit about Wembley Arena with Status Quo.
Well, it was the last show on the tour. We did 15 shows. And, that was when Francis asked me, you know, hey, do you do all your own writing? I like your songs. You know, can we do something? I went around his house a couple of times. But as I said, I had a real block. And I thought, how am I going to write anything for this guy? Kind of put me off a little bit because this was 1999. And it was like, I wasn't quite as confident then as I am now, if you know what I mean. Now I could I've sent a couple of songs to Robin Zander from Cheap Trick, and I'm going, hey, I got something right up your alley. I haven't heard anything back. But another really funny thing was I was doing a bunch of gigs in Wales, in Swansea. They had a blues club there called the Torway Delta Blues Club, and it was run by Terry Williams. And Terry he was a great drummer. He played with Rockpile, with Dave Edmonds. He played with Dire Straits.
Oh, wow.
I think he's on that Brothers in Arms album. Anyway, Terry's great. And he said to me, I've got your little support band tonight. Hope you don't mind. It was a Christmas party, and I was running really late. I was trying to get my gear, and I said, oh, yeah. Introduced me to one of the guys. I went, hi, how are you? Got to get my guitar. So anyway, this fella is walking past with this really old Vox speaker cabinet, an old 60s Vox cabinet, and that's a brand of speaker. And us, you know, collectors, we look at these and go, whoa, that's old.
Yeah.
You know? And I said to him,
it's what the Beatles played through.
yeah, exactly. I said, And as we walked past, it had Budgie stenciled on the back. And I said, Budgie. My grandfather told me about them. Now, Budgie are one of my favourite bands of all time. I love them. And he laughed, right? And as he walked past to go back out to his car to get something, I said, where did you steal that from? You know, he said, it's mine. I said, how long you had it? And he said, forever. And I went, what did you say your name was? He said, Burke. And I went, Burke Shelley? And he said, yeah. And I went, oh, mate, I'm so sorry. The bass player from Budgie and singer. And we had a really good laugh because I'm Welsh and he's Welsh. And so at the end of the night, he'd stuck around to watch our set. and he said, look, we might be needing a new guitar player soon, and we'd like to keep a Welsh guitar player in. Would you be interested in joining the band if it comes up? And he gives me the Live in San Antonio album. He said, can you learn these songs and maybe come and see us in London next week? And it was just Burke's little blues band that he had. He wasn't even singing in the band. He played great. I thought, for a rock guy, he plays great blues.
Yep.
You know, because a lot of rock guys can't play blues to save their lives. But he was really good, and it just really impressed me. I said, yeah, I'd love to, you know, and I went to London and yeah, he put me on the guest list and whatnot. And the next thing I know, I hadn't heard from him, Craig Goldie's in the band from Los Angeles, from Dio's band. And I thought, where's my gig? He's not Welsh, I don't think. So, yeah, that was just a funny little anecdote. Yeah. But he's passed away now too.
Conversely, from the experience of a highlight, is there anything that you've done that you would say you regret doing, or not necessarily regret, but an opportunity that came your way that you turned down, or it didn't work out the way you thought?
Well, that Quo thing, I wish I'd been in a better mindset. By the time I did actually send him a song, it wasn't a very good one.
So it's sort of a double-edged sword, because it's like it's a highlight and a regret as well.
It's not really I don't know if there's regret. It just wasn't meant to happen, I guess.
The timing wasn't right.
Maybe.
And it's one of those things that I've seen throughout my time in the industry is timing is such a crucial thing. And I'm not talking even just about the timing of how you play in time, but the timing of events.
Yeah, that's really important.
It's one of those things, when an opportunity comes your way, you really have to be prepared and ready for that opportunity, otherwise it could be a missed opportunity.
Yeah, well, you know, I really think that I've had a lot of really fortunate things happen. But you have to put yourself in that situation where things will happen. If you sit at home and just write songs and don't go out and play, you don't travel, you don't go for the adventure of life.
Well, I guess it's also, I think it's like you were saying, you flipped a coin and you could go to bed or go to the jam session.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad it didn't go the other way.
And would you say that a lot of the things that have happened for you is basically because you're basically putting yourself out there?
Yep,
you've been quite open to the experience.
You have to invite the universe into your life.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can put it. And I know so many players that are way better than me, but they don't go out and seize life by the, you know, short and curly. You got to go out and get it, and you have to be out there. There's only one life, you know.
And it's not a long one.
No, not really. I mean, it feels like yesterday when stuff happened. It was. That's right. I was around Kevin Boric's house doing a record. That's
right. So you yesterday you were around recording and writing with Kevin Boric. When's that? When can we hear that?
Well, it's a song I've written. I don't want to give too much away because it's not ready to release yet. It's a song I'd written for somebody who wanted me to write them a song. And it's a good person. And how could I say it? It's going to come out soon. But it's so funny because I initially recorded it to a click track, so you got tick, 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 and you got to play in the beat within the beats. And then I thought, I really want Paul Wheeler to play on this, and he doesn't know this yet. But I grabbed another song I'd recorded with him that's a similar feel, and I imported the drum track, chopped it up, changed the tempo, and put fills in where they should be. And it sounds like he's played on it, you know. Sorry, Paul, didn't tell you about that one. And then I played bass on it. I got Rod Mayle, John Mayall's brother, and he played in the Blues Breakers in 1970 or something.
Wow.
And Rod's on Hammond organ. I went round his house in August last year, and in the middle of the night, I'd just done a gig around near Manchester, and I went back to their place, and Linda Hill is his wife or partner, whatever. She'd written a book, 1964, about the Beatles.
Wow.
In Hull, and she's on the cover with the Beatles.
Wow.
You know, in the suits in 1964. It's so cool. And Rod's a super nice guy. They're both great people. And so that's a plug for Linda's book. I've forgotten the name of it, sorry. But it's
So
the
you've got
Beatles in Hull.
You've got 27 or so more shows to do in Australia. And then what happens for you? You're travelling back overseas, you go back to Prague or other...
I put a band together in Italy. Mm-hmm. I did a show, I did a tour 2 years ago through Germany, and I needed a bass player, so I put a cry out on Facebook. Oh, I'll come and do it. I went, okay. Fabio Drusen, great bass player, and him and his drummer played with Alvin Youngblood Hart. I don't know if you know him.
No, I don't know.
I think he's from Mississippi. Great blues guy, real blues, you know. And Fabio sometimes guests with Government Mule, with Warren Haynes.
Oh, yep, great band.
He played a bit of bass with them, but he played harmonica and some percussion. And so Fabio's great. And I had my English drummer, Chris Sharley, he did that tour. But for ease of getting around Italy and Europe, whatnot, Fabio's got his drummer over there, doesn't speak a word of English, Silver Bassi is his name, fantastic drummer. And he's learned all of Paul Wheeler's parts. Paul, you're out of a job, mate. But I had one jam with him last year. I went down to Italy for a bit of a blast, and it was like, these guys are fantastic. Maybe we can do some videos or something. But
so you go back to that. How far ahead?
I've got some shows in May in Czech Republic.
I was just going to say, how far ahead do you plan?
As far as possible.
Yeah.
I've started booking my next Australian tour, November. I think I've got Port Noarlunga Blues Festival in Adelaide, in SA. I've got 5 shows in December booked for SA. I come out every year to see my dad. He's old and in a home and whatnot. And he's doing so great though. It was his 90th birthday, and I did a little gig with Chris Finnan at his birthday party.
Yep.
A bunch of people there. And my brother, Mike, who never let me touch his guitar. We've never played together before. Our musical differences are sort of way out. But in the last few years, I've been getting into a lot of... Yika's helped me a lot with getting in a little bit more country and bluegrass music. He's a fabulous violinist. And some of the stuff we do in the set is more country and folk-based.
Yep.
And my brother's into sort of folk music as well. So, and opera, there's
folk and opera, they're quite, they're
way off centre there. But we did, first time we've ever played together. We've never sat around the house or anything, and we just played a couple of songs together. A Welsh national anthem.
Oh, wow.
I had to learn it.
Yeah.
It's only a few chords, but, I wanted it to be good. And it's for my dad's 90th birthday, or our dad's 90th birthday. So,
It would have been great for him to see you both play together.
Yeah. He loved it, and that's one of my achievements in life, I think.
Yeah.
The family thing, so important. But it's a pity it's taken me so long to do it, But, we'll do more.
Yeah. Well, at that particular point, I'll put links down below in the description so people can access all your stuff, see where you're playing while you're here.
Yeah.
And look at your social media and check out websites and all that sort of stuff so that they can hopefully go out and buy a copy of your music and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, don't stream it, buy it. Oh, you got, to buy one of these means you've streamed a song 3,000 times. That's the same amount of money I make on one CD sale. 3,000 streams, that's a lot.
It is.
Yeah.
It is a lot.
Thank
you very, very much, Gwyn.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure meeting you.
It's been fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Well, hopefully I'll get to see your show very soon.
And thanks to Billy February for hooking us up.
Yes, thanks, Bill.
Yep, good on you.
You're a legend. All right, thank you very much for watching and listening. I'll put links below, and hopefully I'll see you on the next podcast.
I should have worn these. I feel...
Oh, they suit you too.